The millionaire is shocked to discover a homeless woman warned about the spirit in his dream. Marina lay in bed, the shadows dancing across her room, holding secrets she couldn't decipher. With each flicker of the moonlight, she heard the ghostly echoes of a voice, unmistakably familiar, yet forever foreign. It belonged to a father she never met, his words laced with urgency, drawing her into a chilling world where nightmares felt alarmingly real. Torn between dreams and reality, she felt trapped under the weight of her mother's stern gaze. Laura, whose smile was as thin as the lies she wove around their life. It was the whispers that tormented her, harmonizing with the unyielding silence of their cramped apartment. Laura kept it, immaculate, like a shrine to an unspoken tragedy. There were pictures of family events with her dad, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in their lives. He had vanished before Marina even had the chance to know him, leaving nothing but shadows and unanswered questions. What had happened? Why didn't Laura share? The tension mounted like a swelling tide, reaching its peak one fateful night when Marina's fears bubbled to the surface, igniting into a confrontation that shattered Laura's composed facade. Words flew between them like arrows, piercing truths too painful to bear. Marina had never seen her mother break down, tears tumbling down like a torrential rain, revealing a twisted complexity that lay beneath the surface. It was then she felt the ground shift beneath her, leading to her admission into the hospital. Once inside, the sterile white walls felt more suffocating than comforting. In a haze of calm brought on by medication, Marina made a decision. She would uncover the truth about her family's hidden past. Each day, she grew bolder as the fog lifted, her mind racing with questions, and fierce determination ignited anew. Her inquisitive nature drew her to Mr. Thompson, the elderly neighbor whose eyes twinkled with the kind of wisdom that children yearn for. Unbeknownst to him, he held fragments of her father's story, a biologist caught in a web of secrecy, involvement in a covert government project that led to his untimely demise. Each tidbit he shared was like a piece of a forgotten puzzle sliding into place, stoking the fire within her. Driven by a reckless bravery, Marina's search led her to a hidden sewer, the stench of decay mingling with the fresh dirt that revealed the remnants of her parents. The sight was enough to make her stomach churn, but it was not fear that gripped her heart. It was resolve. She had to find Dr. Richards, the compassionate doctor who genuinely cared and believed in unraveling the evils cloaked in silence. The truth was staggering. Laura wasn't her real mother. She was a carefully constructed replica designed to shield Marina from a darker threat. In that moment of revelation, everything trembled. Her world turned upside down, love and betrayal mingling into one chaotic storm. The final confrontation became a heart-wrenching crescendo, and as tragedy swept through, it claimed Laura's life before the dawn broke. As the dust settled, Marina stood resilient. The shadows shifting around her now seemed lighter, though they still echoed with unresolved mysteries. She had transformed her grief into purpose, ready to advocate for those caught in silence. With a newfound identity, she stepped into the world beyond, hearts aching and hopes soaring, but one question lingered like smoke in the air. What other secrets lay in wait, just beyond her reach? Hey, before we dive deeper into this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at that red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, leave that powerful like that helps so much with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Marina stood in the middle of her mother's cluttered living room, the weight of new revelations pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. Shadows flickered at the corners of her vision, whispering memories of a past she barely knew, but was desperate to understand. Laura was gone, leaving behind an emptiness that felt both liberating and devastating. Was she prepared for the truth, even with Laura's betrayal shattering the remnants of her childhood? As she scoured the house for anything that could shed light on her family's secrets, a noise echoed through the otherwise still air, something thudding against the door. Confused, she hurried to open it. On the other side stood a woman, disheveled and wild-eyed, holding a faded newspaper. "Marina, you don't understand. You need to listen." The woman's voice shook with desperation, drawing Marina's attention like a moth to flame. Her heart raced. How did this stranger know her name? "Who are you?" Marina asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Emily. I used to know your father," she replied breathlessly, her eyes darting nervously. "He was involved in things that are dangerous. You must know the truth if you want to be safe." Marina felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Emily shoved the newspaper into Marina's hands, and her eyes widened as she focused on the headline. "Local biologist missing after scientist leak." Pictures of her father, smiling and carefree, loomed large on the page. He uncovered something big, and it cost him his life. "You have to be careful. They're still looking for the people who know." "Who's looking? What do you know?" Marina felt her mind racing. Everything she thought she knew about. Her father was collapsing into chaos like a house of cards. Just then, the door swung open wider, and two men in dark suits strode in. They took no time to survey the scene, their expressions icy. "Emily, come with us. You're in danger," one of the men said, reaching toward her. Panic twisted in Marina's gut as she stepped back. "Wait, what's going on?" "Marina, go!" Emily shouted, urgency filling her voice. "They'll find you too. You have to—" Before she could finish, the men grabbed Emily and pulled her toward the door. In a split second, confusion turned to chaos. Emily screamed, a sound that pierced the air, and Marina's heart seized. "Don't let them take me!" "No!" Marina lunged forward. But one of the men turned, grabbing her wrist with a strength that sent shockwaves up her arm. "Let her go!" she yelled, panic igniting a fire in her chest. Suddenly, a sharp crack rang out, the sound of glass shattering from the nearby window. A third figure emerged from the shadows, a hooded man, and in one swift motion, he lunged at the suited men, creating a diversion. "Run, Marina!" he shouted, his voice deep, yet strangely familiar. Marina's heart raced with questions. As she bolted toward the back door, every ounce of her being screamed for her to escape. Behind her, all she could hear was chaos, yelling, the sound of struggle, and Emily's frantic calls for help. Once she stumbled outside, the cool night air slapped her face, washing over her like a cold wave. She turned on her heel, running into the darkness, her mind racing, piecing together the shattered reflections of her once innocent existence. Had they been watching her all along? The whispers of her father seemed to echo louder now than they ever had, a warning pulsing through every thought. She was pulled into a web of danger she hadn't known existed, with one bitter realization reverberating as she fled. Everything she thought she knew about her life was now a fragile illusion. What else were they hiding? And who could she trust now? The shadows loomed larger than ever, darker than they had before, and she felt their grasp tightening around her, leaving her with one haunting question. What kind of legacy had her father really left behind? Marina stumbled into the dark night, her heart pounding, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The shadowy figures of the suited men faded into the distance, but her mind was a whirlwind, questions racing, fear gripping her. Who was this man who helped her? Was she really safe? With every step, she felt danger lurking just out of reach. But there was another force pushing her forward, a burning need to uncover the truth. She darted down the back alley, the cool air biting at her skin, and ducked behind a dumpster, pressing her back against the cold metal. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she strained to hear what was happening behind her. The chaos from her home softened into muffled sounds, replaced by an eerie quiet that seemed to blur the edges of reality. "Marina!" The deep voice boomed through the night like a thunderclap, shattering the silence. Her heart leaped as she recognized it. It was that hooded man. "This way." She hesitated, but then moved toward the voice, trusting a gut feeling. As she rounded the corner, her eyes fell on him, still cloaked in shadow, but undeniably familiar. "Who are you?" she gasped, fear and confusion swirling within her. "Not now, just come." He waved her closer, urgency in his tone. As she hurried to his side, he yanked her down a side street, guiding her into a narrow passage that led to the back of a building. "We don't have much time," he urged, glancing over his shoulder as if watching for pursuers. "What are you talking about? Why did you help me?" Marina tried to keep her voice steady, but uncertainty gnawed at her. "Because you don't know who you are, Marina," he said, his voice low and intense. "And neither did I until tonight." The words lingered in the air between them. What did he mean? Her thoughts were a chaotic storm. And yet, in the back of her mind, a flicker of recognition sparked. "What do you mean?" she repeated, needing clarity. "We're connected," he whispered, his eyes piercing into hers, as if searching for the truth buried within her. "I'm your brother." Every muscle in her body tensed, and for a moment, the world spun in disarray. "That's impossible," she spluttered. "My mother—" "Laura isn't who you think she is," he interrupted, his face taut with urgency. "She's been hiding the truth about our family for too long. And it's not just about your father." Suddenly, the realization hit her like a freight train. All the pieces she had been cautiously placing together fell apart, shattering her understanding of everything she thought was solid. "Wait, my father? The biologist? They were part of something dangerous. Laura took me away to keep us safe, but they've been searching for us. They will come for you now that they know you're here." "Alive!" "What do you mean by they?" Her voice trembled. And just as he opened his mouth to answer, an explosion erupted from the direction of her home, sending a shockwave that rattled the ground beneath her feet. The blast illuminated the night sky, casting eerie shadows against nearby walls, and filling the air with a suffocating smell of smoke and chaos. Marina clutched her brother's arm, as the force of the explosion knocked her off balance. "We need to get out of here." She screamed over the chaotic din, but his expression changed. Horror flooded his features. "No!" he exclaimed, pulling her back as if something were approaching. "They're here." The urgency in his tone cut through the haze of panic. Suddenly, two dark figures appeared in the smoke, stalking toward them. The men were ominous, determined. "You have to trust me," he shouted. Marina's heart raced, not just from fear, but from a chaotic swirl of emotions. Her world was unraveling like a tapestry frayed at the edges. Uncertainty twisted inside her, her identity, her family. Everything was cloaked in layers of lies. Tension crackled in the air as the figures drew closer, and Marina stood frozen, torn between the need to flee and the desperate desire to understand. The stakes had risen impossibly high, and one thought echoed in her mind, louder than the chaos around her. Who really was she, and what was left for her to uncover? As the darkness threatened to close, the answers felt closer than ever, yet impossibly out of reach. Marina stood frozen, her heart racing, as the explosion lit up the night sky. The earth trembled beneath her, a violent reminder that her world had just shattered into fragments. She clutched her brother's arm, the chaos swirling around them, a cacophony of shouts, sirens, and the acrid smell of smoke flooding her senses. "Move!" he urged, tugging her down another narrow alley, trying to evade the chaos unfolding. But something inside her held her back. She needed answers. "Wait! What do you mean we're connected?" His expression turned grave, eyes darting nervously. "There's so much you don't know, Marina, about our past, about who we are." But before she could press for clarification, they were interrupted by the advancing figures. The dark-suited men emerged from the smoke, relentless hunters, eyes locking onto them with cold precision. "There!" one shouted, pointing straight at them. "No! We have to go!" He pulled her back, but a dark figure stepped forward from the group, one she had never expected to see again. "Wait!" The voice cut through the chaos, and suddenly Laura stood there, alive, face pale but resolute. "I can explain." Marina's heart sank. "Mom, you're alive? But you abandoned me. You lied." "I did it to protect you," Laura pleaded, the desperation in her voice undeniable. "Protect me? By keeping me in the dark? Or by letting them chase after you?" Marina spat back, hurt cascading through her like wildfire. Laura's gaze flickered to the men behind her, then back to her daughter. "They can't know you're here. You have to trust me." Marina's mind raced, reeling from the sudden appearance of her mother and the chaos. "What do you mean? Who are they? What did you do?" But before Laura could answer, the hooded man, her brother, rushed forward. "They're not who you think." His face twisted with fury. "Mom, look at what you've done!" The heaviness of his accusation filled the air, and a terrible realization swept over Marina. "What are you saying?" "Laura, they're after you now. But it's not just because of our father. It's because you've been lying to us both. You kept us apart for your own sake. Enough!" Laura shouted, her voice breaking. "You don't understand. I did it for you, for both of you." But before she could elaborate, a loud noise shattered the moment. A gunshot that sliced through the night. Everyone turned, panic erupting around them. The men in suits surged forward, grabbing for Emily, who had somehow made her way back into the fray, her eyes wide with fear. "Marina!" Emily yelled, and in a heartbeat, everything changed again. The hooded man lunged at Emily, reaching out with a desperate cry. "No, Emily, get down!" But it was too late. The gunfire cracked again, and Emily staggered back, falling to the ground, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Emily!" Marina screamed, horrified. "Run!" her brother shouted, his voice breaking through the chaos. "Get out of here, now!" Marina's world spun as she knelt beside Emily, cradling her head, looking into her eyes filled with pain. "What have they done?" she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "The truth, Marina," Emily gasped, her voice fading. "They've been lying. Your father, your mother. All of it." Marina's heart raced, her grip tightening on Emily. but all she could hear was the chaos around her. And then, silence. The weight of betrayal and secrets crashed down like a tidal wave. She had to choose: trust her brother or the woman she thought she lost forever. As the darkness closed in, both figures looming behind her, she realized one horrifying truth. The enemy was not only out there. It was sitting in the shadows of her family, twisting everything she believed. Who was her real enemy? And how much time did she have before the walls closed in? The battle for the truth was only beginning, and Marina was trapped in the eye of the storm, with no escape in sight. Marina knelt beside Emily, her heart pounding and confusion swirling around her like a storm. The world felt surreal, too strange to grasp. "Please, stay with me," she begged. But Emily's breaths were shallow, her eyes losing their light. The figures in suits advanced, shadows growing darker across the alley. Her brother, still cloaked in mystery, screamed for her to run. But she was glued to the spot, tears burning her cheeks as the horror unfolded before her. Emily's gaze flickered down the street, panic illuminating her face. "They're coming, Marina. You have to stop them." "What do you mean?" The words escaped in a frantic rush, fear tightening in her chest. Was Emily warning her about the men with guns? Or was it something more? Then, out of the suffocating darkness, a loud crack echoed, a gunshot. The sound rang in her ears like thunder, followed by a crash that reverberated through the street. A spotlight flicked on, and a figure stepped into view. A cop, his stance wide, gun drawn. "Everyone on the ground," he shouted, voice booming, confusion layering every syllable. She could hardly process it. Were these cops allies or foes? And what about Emily? Suddenly, chaos erupted again, voices yelling, footsteps pounding, as a crowd of bystanders surged forward, clutching their phones, recording the moment. Their faces a blend of curiosity and terror. "This way!" Her brother grabbed her arm again, his urgency dragging her into motion, pulling her away from the scene. But all she could see was Emily, collapsing against the floor. "Marina!" Emily wheezed, gripping Marina's wrist, her knuckles white. "Find the truth. Don't trust." Before she could finish, a loud pop followed by a splintering crash erupted from the back of the alley. The two suited men had turned their attention to the cop, their bodies coiling, ready to strike. "Get away from her!" the officer shouted as he moved toward them, but he was too late. "Run, Marina!" Emily's breath was a desperate whisper. "That's your father's note. Find it before they do." "What? What note?" Panic surged as someone shouted again, and the fighting broke out, fists flying, chaos swallowing them whole. And then it happened. Just as the world spiraled, her brother, her supposed ally, shoved her away, revealing a hidden dagger strapped to his side, glinting menacingly in the light. "Stay back." "I won't let you take her." It wasn't a plea, it was a warning. "Walter?" Mariana gasped, the name barely forming on her lips. Who was he, really? "You?" "I was sent to protect you, but not like this." He turned back, desperation flashing through his gaze. "You're in danger, Marina. They know who you are." But then, with a sudden determination, he lunged toward the men, the dagger slicing through the air. The knife found a mark, and a shout split the night, the bystanders gasping. In that moment, as the chaos escalated, everything twisted. Wara rushed back into view, eyes wild with terror. "What are you doing, Walter? You're going to ruin everything." Marina's heart dropped as she caught the exchange. The look of betrayal on her brother's face, the utter disbelief in Laura's eyes. "You're not my mother, are you?" The words escaped her, a revelation that hung heavy in the air. Laura's face morphed from anger to something darker, a secret unspooling, and beneath it all, a hidden truth. Marina, listen. There are things you don't understand. Things I did to protect you. Protect me? She couldn't breathe, piecing together fragments of information, realizing just how tangled their lives were. The sirens wailed in the distance, growing steadily louder, and as the shadows closed in, a new fear coiled tight within her. Who could she trust? Were the people she loved real, or had they always been part of this twisted web? Just then, another blast echoed through the night, a flash illuminating the alley as a figure fell, its identity hidden in the darkness. Panic surged, confusion reigned, and as Marina grappled with the chaos surrounding her, one thought filled her mind. The truth was more dangerous than she had ever imagined. But before she could piece it all together, a final shot rang out, and the world faded to black. As the darkness enveloped her, uncertainty clawed at her insides, leaving one haunting question. Who was the real enemy, and would she ever escape the tangled web of her past? Marina knelt beside Emily, her heart pounding as chaos swirled around her like a tempest. The world felt surreal, too strange to comprehend. "Please, stay with me," she begged. But Emily's breaths were shallow, her eyes losing their fire. The figures in suits advanced, shadows looming larger across the alley. Her brother, still cloaked in mystery, screamed for her to run. She felt frozen, tears streaming down her cheeks as the horror unfolded before her. Emily's gaze flickered to the street, panic igniting her expression. "They're coming, Marina. You have to stop them." "What do you mean?" Her fear ramped up, tightening her chest. Was Emily warning her about the men with guns? Or something even more sinister? Then a loud crack echoed. A gunshot. The sound slapped her senses like a thunderclap, followed immediately by a crash that reverberated through the air. A spotlight flicked on, and a figure stepped into view, a police officer, gun drawn. "Everyone on the ground!" he yelled, voice booming over the chaos. Her reality twisted again. Were these cops her allies, or were they part of the mess? The panic swelled, choking her with uncertainty, while all she could focus on was Emily, collapsing against the pavement. "Marina!" Emily wheezed, gripping her wrist, turning her knuckles white. "Find the truth! Don't trust!" Before she could finish, a loud bang shattered the fray, a thunderous blast that illuminated the alley. A figure crumpled to the ground, hidden in shadows, and panic rippled through the crowd like a wave. "No!" Marina screamed, barely processing the chaotic scene around her. Then she caught the gleam of metal, a glint of a knife from her brother's hand, horror crashing down as he lunged towards one of the suited men. "Walter, no!" The moment stretched into eternity. The world around them slowed as her heart raced. She tried to get close, to stop him, but all she could do was witness the chaos. "Get away from her!" the officer shouted, stepping into the fray. But the dark figure whirled around, his dagger slicing through the air like a deadly arc. In an instant, a new noise erupted, a shrill scream that pierced the air, cold and chilling. "No! Stop!" It was Laura, crashing into the scene, eyes wild and frantic. "Walter!" Marina's heart dropped. Her mother seemed alive, yet lost, confusion twisting her face. "What are you doing, Walter? You'll ruin everything." The exchange crackled with betrayal. "You're not my mother, are you?" Marina's voice trembled, barely audible above the chaos. Laura's expression shifted from anger to a trying calm, a hidden secret strangely evident. "Sweetheart, it's complicated. I did everything for your safety. At that moment, another loud crack rang out. Another gunshot echoed in the night. The alley trembled, people screaming, running in every direction. Through the chaos, a blinding light illuminated the area, and suddenly she spotted a figure emerging from the shadows. Emily's father. Time stopped. "Dad?" she whispered, stunned. "Yes," he replied, a heartbreaking mix of relief and fear in his eyes. "You have to listen to me, Marina. All of it. The lies. The secrets. They're more dangerous than you know. I came to protect you." But before she could process his return, everything exploded with noise again. A blur of movement, shouting. The suited men were closing in. But then, something worse happened. In the rush, Walter lunged forward, but not to attack. He turned. On Marina, the knife aimed at her heart. "Why, Walter?" The realization crashed over her like icy water. "You were never here to protect me?" The words hung in the air like a death knell. Her brother's face twisted, rage boiling over as chaos swirled around them. "You need to understand, I'm the only one who can solve this." Just then, a flash of brilliance, a shimmer of light, a sudden explosion rocked the alley, and everything went black. As darkness engulfed her, one stinging thought cut through the haze. Who was really lying? What had she truly uncovered? The answer sat just out of reach, buried in the chaos of family ties and deadly secrets, waiting to consume them all. Marina knelt next. To Emily, her heart pounding and confusion swirling around her like a storm. The world felt surreal, too strange to grasp. "Please, stay with me," she begged. But Emily's breaths were shallow, her eyes losing their fire. The figures in suits advanced, shadows looming larger across the alley. Her brother, still cloaked in mystery, screamed for her to run. But she was frozen, tears streaming down her cheeks as the horror unfolded before her. Emily's gaze flickered to the street, panic igniting her expression. "They're coming, Marina. You have to stop them." "What do you mean?" Her fear ramped up, tightening her chest. Was Emily warning her about the men with guns? Or something even more sinister? Then a loud crack echoed, a gunshot. The sound slapped her senses like a thunderclap, followed immediately by a crash that reverberated through the air. A spotlight flicked on, and a figure stepped into view. A police officer, gun drawn. "Everyone on the ground!" he yelled, voice booming over the chaos. Her reality twisted again. Were these cops her allies, or were they part of the mess? The panic swelled, choking her with uncertainty, while all she could focus on was Emily, collapsing against the pavement. "Marina!" Emily wheezed, gripping her wrist, turning her knuckles white. "Find the truth, don't trust." Before she could finish, a loud bang shattered the fray, a thunderous blast that illuminated the alley. A figure crumpled to the ground, hidden in shadows, and panic rippled through the crowd like a wave. "No!" Marina screamed, barely processing the chaotic scene around her. Then she caught the gleam of metal, a glint of a knife from her brother's hand. Horror crashing down as he lunged towards one of the suited men. "Walter, no!" The moment stretched into eternity. The world around them slowed as her heart raced. She tried to get close, to stop him, but all she could do was witness the chaos. "Get away from her!" the officer shouted, stepping into the fray. But the dark figure whirled around, his dagger slicing through the air like a deadly arc. In an instant, a new noise erupted, a shrill scream that pierced the air, cold and chilling. "No! Stop!" It was Laura, crashing into the scene, eyes wild and frantic, Walter! Marina's heart dropped. Her mother seemed alive yet lost, confusion twisting her face. What are you doing, Walter? You'll ruin everything! The exchange crackled with betrayal. You're not my other, are you? Marina's voice trembled, barely audible above the chaos. Laura's expression shifted from anger to a trying calm, a hidden secret strangely evident. Sweetheart, it's complicated. I did everything for your safety. At that moment, another loud crack rang out, heartbreaking mix of relief and fear in his eyes. You have to listen to me, Marina. All of it. The lies, the secrets, they're more dangerous than you know. I came to protect you. But before she could process his return, everything exploded with noise again. A blur of movement, shouting. The suited men were closing in. But then, something worse happened. In the rush, Walter lunged forward, but not to attack. He turned on Marina, the knife aimed at her heart. Why, Walter? The realization crashed over her like icy water. You were never here to protect me? The words hung in the air like a death knell. Her brother's face twisted, rage boiling over as chaos swirled around them. You need to understand. I'm the only one who can solve this. Just then, a flash of brilliance, a shimmer of light. A sudden explosion rocked the alley and everything went black. As darkness engulfed her, one stinging thought cut through the haze. Who was really lying? What had she truly uncovered? The answer sat just out of reach, buried in the chaos of family ties and deadly secrets, waiting to consume them all. But in that unconscious void, a twisted revelation unraveled. Moments later, a silent figure appeared in the dark, her mother meshing with the shadows. Marina, she whispered, voice low and haunting. I did what I had to do. For all of us. Marina's heart thundered, confusion spiraling into terror. What did she mean, for all? Of us? Had she orchestrated this entire nightmare? Suddenly, a piercing memory flooded her mind. A half-remembered photo of a woman she had always ignored. It couldn't be. And just like that, the world shifted again, forcing Marina to face the possibility that the identities she had held dear were rooted in deception. As the air thickened with secrets, she struggled to piece it all together. What if every familiar face hid a darker truth? What if her mother's love was merely a mask, concealing the keen blade beneath? One echoing thought shattered the night. Who was really the villain in this unfolding drama? The darkness held its breath, as uncertain shadows shifted, leaving an insatiable question hanging in the air. What else was? Hidden in the depths of her family's past, as darkness enveloped Marina, confusion twisted in her mind like a storm. Just moments ago, she was grasping at straws, desperately trying to piece together who her family really was. Now, with Emily's figure fading beside her, her mother's voice breaking through the chaos, she felt unmoored. Marina! Laura's ghostly whisper drifted through the dimness, haunting and echoing, as if the shadows themselves were alive with secrets. You don't understand what I did. It was all for you, Marina's heart thundered. For me? Or for yourself? The anger bubbled up, threatening to choke her. Who was Laura trying to protect? The woman she thought was her mother had spun a web so tangled she could hardly see the edges. Where was the truth? But before she could answer herself, a metallic clink rang out nearby, a new sound that sliced through the tension. From the depths of the darkness, a figure emerged, carrying a briefcase, a man she didn't recognize, but felt oddly drawn to. His face was obscured under a wide-brimmed hat, casting a shadow over his features. "Marina, you need to see this," he shouted, urgency spilling from his voice. "It's about your father. You'll never know peace until you know the truth." The crowd shifted, the chaos swirling around as people turned to see what was happening. Her brother Walter shouted for her to stay back. "Don't listen to him! He's not safe!" But something inside her compelled her forward. The weight of the moment pressed down heavily on her shoulders. "What truth? What do you know about my father?" Her voice trembled, each word laced with desperation and fear. The man moved closer, eyes narrowing as he opened the briefcase. There, illuminated by the erratic light of the scene, were stacks of old photographs and documents. "Your father was involved in something bigger than all of us. He uncovered secrets that could bring down powerful people." As he spread the papers, a photograph fell to the ground, floating like a feather until it landed at Marina's feet. She picked it up, and her breath caught. It was an image of her father standing beside a group of scientists, but beside him was another familiar face, Laura. They looked almost too close, too comfortable. "No!" Marina gasped, her mind racing, a sickening churn of betrayal flooding her senses. "You said he was gone. You've been lying." "No, Laura's voice trembled, panic flickering across her features. "Marina, it's not what it looks like. I loved your father. I was trying to protect you." Something hit like a thunderclap in her chest. "Protect me? Or were you hiding him?" The sharpness of her words echoed against the walls, every spectator quieting, realizing the unspeakable truth hanging in the air. But before tension surged into violence, another explosion rocked the street. The ground quaked beneath them, and debris showered down. Instinctively, Marina ducked as screams filled the air. "Run!" her brother yelled, panic sparking altogether. In that chaos, the briefcase tumbled from the man's hold, spilling its contents into the street. The photographs scattered like fallen leaves, each one floating back into the shadows of their lives, unfinished stories now at their feet. Marina's heart raced as she glimpsed one final image. It exposed a truth so terrible that it shattered her reality. Her father stood side by side with her mother. But they weren't just colleagues. They were conspirators. Both of them had orchestrated a conspiracy that ran deeper than she could have ever imagined, entwined in dangers she'd known nothing about. "Walter, what's happening?" she whispered, panic igniting again, confusion clawing at her insides. The words were barely out before she noticed the suited men regrouping, their attention redirected toward her. And the man with the briefcase was gone, swallowed back into the dark. "Marina, we need to leave, now!" Walter gripped her arm with a force that jolted her. "No, this isn't over!" she shouted, burning with determination. The truth had cracked open a door she could no longer ignore, and as another shot rang out, all she could think was, what had she stepped into? With urgency propelling her, she turned and ran. The air was thick with smoke and danger, and every heartbeat echoed the growing questions in her mind. She was flying blind, but now she had a direction. The truth awaited, and she would not stop until she uncovered everything, no matter the costs. Who were her parents, really? And if they had tied her into this dark web, what more lay waiting just beneath the surface? Marina sprinted down the alley, heart racing, thoughts swirling. The chaos of the last few minutes jumbled in her mind. Each step felt like a question pushing for answers. Who was she running from? Her brother? The men in suits? Her mother? The truth was slipping away, but her instincts pushed her forward. Somewhere in that spinning mess, she had to find clarity. "Marina, this way!" Walter shouted, urgency lacing his voice. He gestured down a narrow street that veered off to the right, where the shadows were dense and creaked like creeping hands, ready to snatch her back. But just as she turned, the ground trembled violently, and a distant roar echoed behind them. "We have to move," she urged, glancing back just in time to see a blinding light emerge from the alley they had just fled. Something's wrong. A split second later, an explosion rang out, scattering debris and sending sharp shards flying. The shockwave knocked her off her feet, landing hard against the cold sidewalk. Her breath caught in her throat. "Marina!" Walter was there, pulling her back to her feet, fear flooding his face. But it was too late. The smoke rose like a monster from the wreckage, twisting the air into an oppressive blanket. And through the haze, figures emerged, dark silhouettes advancing, their faces hidden, but their intentions clear. "She mustn't find out," one of them shouted, voice gruff and urgent. "What do you mean?" Marina shouted back, more confused than ever. "What's happening?" "Shut up," Walter hissed, gritting his teeth as he pushed her behind him. "They can't know you're here." But another voice broke through the chaos, weaving its way into her confusion. "Marina!" It was Emily, somehow off the ground, leaning against an old brick wall, blood trickling down her arm. "You have to listen. They're lying." "What? Who's lying?" The ground felt unsteady beneath her, like the world was spinning out of control. But it got worse. As if on cue, another figure emerged from the smoke. A woman, her face eerily familiar. It was Laura. For a heartbeat, the world stopped again. "Marina!" she cried out, desperation thick in her voice. "Stay back!" Walter shouted, eyes wild with panic. "She's not who you think she is." Marina's heart raced. "What do you mean? Mom, you're alive?" Everything she thought she knew about her mother shattered like glass around her. But Laura didn't address her. Instead, she fixed her gaze on Walter. "You're not supposed to be here. We need to go." "Go where?" Walter's voice dripped with betrayal. "You don't have the right to tell me anything." Then suddenly, the world shifted again. Walter pulled something from his jacket, a gleaming object that caught the light for a split second. A gun. "Walter, no!" Marina's scream pierced the darkness, but it was too late. He turned the weapon toward their mother. "I can't let you take her away again." "Marina, he's not your brother!" Laura shouted, anguish tearing through her words. "He's an imposter. But before she could finish, the gun fired. The shot rang out, a violent echo against the brick walls, and time stretched, freezing everything in place. Marina froze. The reality crashing down heavier than the debris around them. "What?" The word barely escaped her lips before another explosion echoed from the shadows, knocking her sideways again. In that moment, everything broke apart. Marina stumbled, confusion layering into fear, adrenaline ripping through her. "What do you mean, Walter? Who are you really?" But just as he moved to respond, a massive figure emerged from the explosion's smoke. A man dressed in black, broad-chested and fierce. Not just any man. He wore a badge, raised it high as he stepped forward, eyes scanning the crowd. "FBI, everyone freeze!" Marina's world collapsed. No, it can't be," she gasped, realization sliding into place. Her life had twisted into a shadowy conspiracy, and now she was tangled in something dark and dangerous, much worse than she had imagined. Walter turned to her, eyes wide, his voice trembling. "Marina, I can explain, just—" But the words never came, drowned out by the sirens wailing closer. Confusion turned into panic, and she didn't know who to trust or what would happen next. All she knew was the truth was darker than she ever could have anticipated, and as the weight of it pressed on her, she felt the revulsion of betrayal crawling under her skin. What was left of her reality now? As she turned to run, the question burned in her mind. Who was the true enemy? Marina stood frozen as the reality of the night swept over her. Everything felt like it was crumbling. She blinked through the haze of smoke that hung thick in the air, choking the truth out of her. With her heart racing, she took in the sight of chaos enveloping her. Her brother Walter tense and furious, and Emily leaning against the wall, blood trickling down her arm, pleading for her attention. But amidst the confusion, one thing was clear. Everything she thought she knew had shattered like glass. "Marina, listen," Emily gasped, her voice strained. "You need to find your father's note. It's the key to everything." "His note?" The words barely made it out. "What are you talking about?" Before they could delve deeper, another explosion rocked the area, sending everyone sprawling. Marina felt her heart drop into her stomach. She rolled to the side, gasping as dust and debris filled her lungs. "Walter!" she shouted, searching for him amid the chaos. He was standing firm, his determined stance unwavering, even as tensions flared. "Stay back." "Everyone stay back!" Walter yelled, positioning himself protectively in front of Marina. His gaze flicked from their mother to the advancing shadows, revealing the men in suits, their intent clear. "I can't let them take you!" "Take me where? What is happening?" Panic bubbled in her throat, threatening to choke her. "In a moment, you'll know everything," Walter declared, voice thick with emotion. "But now's not the time to question." The figures loomed closer, and from behind them, a familiar face appeared. A man in uniform. "FBI, everyone down!" he commanded, his voice cutting through the rising turmoil. His badge shone in the dim light like a beacon, but Marina felt anything but relief. "Dad?" she whispered in disbelief, as another layer of secrets peeled away. "Yes, Marina, I'm here to protect you." He rushed forward, arm outstretched, but before he could reach her, another gunshot echoed, ricocheting off the walls and sending her recoiling back. "No!" Marina screamed, her father's face getting swallowed by the chaos. In that moment, everything warped. The agony surged, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. As the smoke billowed around, she caught a glimpse of Walter, his face a mask of rage and fear. "You have to trust me, Marina. We're not safe." But trust felt like a distant memory. With everything spiraling, she gathered her resolve and bolted toward them. "We need to figure this out now," she cried, desperation spilling over. Emily struggled to stand, and Laura stood there, torn between anger and sorrow. "We're all in this together, Marina. We need to stick together." But just as that bond started to form again, another explosion flashed through the alley, forcing them all to the ground. In the thick of the smoke, a moment of clarity hit Marina like a bolt of lightning. Under the turbulent madness lay a foundation of truth. She wouldn't let fear define her anymore. "Not tonight. Tell me everything," Marina shouted, tears streaming down her cheeks, mixing with dust and smoke as she stood tall for the first time. "Why was my father taken? Why did you lie to me?" "It's complicated," Laura attempted, her voice cracking. "That's not good enough," Marina lashed out, heart pounding. Louder than the chaos around them. "We deserve to know." Around her, the world spun into motion as the men closed in. She felt the air grow heavy, but then she pulled her brother close and the bond flourished. Together, Marin, always. Drawing strength from each other, they faced the specter of their past, the entangled webs of deception forming a tapestry now exposed. As the sirens wailed closer and the possible fates loomed over them, Marina took the first step toward the truth, her heart propelled by hope. "Everyone, stay close," she yelled, rallying her family. "Let's get out of here together." As they turned to flee into the night, darkness lay ahead. But so did the unknown, and for the first time, she felt ready to embrace it. What had begun in whispers and shadows would unfold under the light of her newfound resolve. And just like that, the lingering question hung in the air. What other buried truths awaited them? Hey, before you go, listen up. You need to hit that subscribe button right now to not miss these exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button. It truly helps us reach even more awesome people like you. And don't forget to flood the comments with your reactions and your theories about this ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how this all wraps up. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait another second.